And welcome back. It is me. It is the Cyber Warrior. This is CyberWarriorStudios, and I know y'all are all here for Security Happy Hour. And we're going to have an amazing show. No, my co-host is not with me today. That's okay. I have two amazing guests. All right. So we're going to fill the time. We're going to make it happen, or we're going to be talking big things. So stay with me, and I promise I'll be back here in a second. And we're back. And yes, like I said, it is me, the Cyber Warrior. With me today, I have two amazing people. And the reason this show is at 5 o'clock is because of my guest right over here. This guy right here, Henry Evans from the UK. I had to find some time to get a good friend from across the pond on. So Henry is joining us today, and we're going to be talking some entry-level stuff in IT and cybersecurity. And also with me, before I had to cancel last week due to some personal issues, Jonathan Griffith, who is joined us this week. So we have two guests now. So it's going to be an amazing show. But let's kick things off. Henry, since you were the original guest for this week, let's talk to you. Andrew from the UK, which means you're going to have some interesting insight. So tell me, what are you doing right now and where are you trying to get to?
So I'm Henry. If you don't already know, I am at the moment a junior service desk analyst, so I'll do a lot of first line instant response almost. I would quite like at the moment, as things sit, because my mind changes left and right all the time, to become a level 1 SOC analyst is ideally what I'm after. And I've got about a year or two until I'm considering moving into that field, but I'm proactively exploring this environment at the moment, which is why I reached out to Derek.
Yeah, definitely. It'll be interesting to get your take on quite a few things and kind of your progress so far, because the UK does things differently. They have different regulations, different certifications that are like mandatory for certain areas and things of that nature. And I do know Security Blue Team was doing some big things with the government to get their certifications kind of approved for certain areas. So Josh was doing some big things on that front to make that happen. So I'm excited to see where you're at in your journey and how things are going to progress. Jonathan down before, he just got up and walked away. Jonathan, give us a little intro, man, kind of where you're at and what you're trying to get to.
So I currently work for a local MSP. Pretty much, I'm a systems administrator. I do everything, which I like because it gives me more experience and pretty much and more get to touch more of the back end stuff, which is what I've been wanting to do. And what I want to do is more of the security engineering, security administration. That's eventually my goal. Get up to working. Which right now I'm actually working on the security platform, which is nice. So I'm getting hands-on and getting experience in that. That is definitely going to help me.
So do you work for I know you said MSP, but is there a security component to them that makes them more an MSSP with the security construct, or are they mainly IT and the security experience you're getting is more internal?
So they have a security platform. They have Gravity Zone Defender. So we're looking at Gravity Zone, which pretty much is a full security suite: antivirus, incident response, threat detection. You could do. It's pretty amazing because my boss actually just gave me. They want to fix a lot of the issues that they have. So he actually just gave me full access to it this last week. So I've been going in and playing with it, and it's they pretty much are more focused on IT, but they're trying to also ramp up more of the security posture as well to help with the clients and with the internal. So I'm definitely going to be getting deeper into that. And I've already started, and like this next week, we're going to be working through some of the some of the stuff that's in there and, making it so that we can build it out more and use it more.
Definitely. And that's one of the things. So one of the best ways to get into security for people that don't really know is to be already in a position or in an organization that allows you to kind of shift focus into the security posture. So that's why I always say breaking into IT as a first step not only gives you great foundation, so help desk, system administration, network administration, things like that. But then from there, you take that security focus and you're able to shift and talk to your security guys because you already have the understanding of what they're dealing with from a network or system administration perspective. But now you're learning what they're trying to do and get their input on things. So Henry, with where you're at and in trying to get the security and do more in IT and the things that you've been doing, what have you found to be kind of the hardest part of anything that you've been have had going on lately?
I think transferring to IT, generally speaking, was quite tough. I went to university between 2017 and 2020. I graduated when all COVID decided to screw everything up. So I came out of university with a degree, with a first class. I was like, okay, cool, I can get a job now. And the industry I prepared for was marketing. And there was nothing. And I mean, absolutely nothing. When I was in college before university, I toyed around with going into IT, and I never took the plunge when I was pushed by a network admin to do it. So I kicked myself for that a little bit. I went and retrained for a year. That was really tough because you're moving from a largely sort of arts vocational study area to a very technical, statistic-based. We're trying to resolve problems that are complex over the phone, trying to work out, okay, I've got an issue in front of me. How do I resolve this in as quick a way as possible whilst also leveraging knowledge I have in the background? It's really tough doing that transition. And that took about 18 months. So I'd say for those people that maybe are interested in IT in general and want to make that first step, don't be disheartened by looking for a first line service desk job first. And then as time moves along, pivot your way into cyber, like you were talking about before, developing those connections with people who maybe have more experience. And the one thing as well you've got to be is patient, like really patient. In IT, it takes a long time to develop the natural process of solve this problem, solve that problem, solve the other problem, which underpins all of cybersecurity from what I've seen. The one thing as well I would say is certifications are very important. They provide and establish a baseline for you as an individual, but they are not your skill set. They just prove you know a lot of different things or can recall them from memory. I think the best thing that I find is to practically learn how to do something. And there's loads of different ways to do it. You can go through Try Hack Me, Hack the Box. You can go through TCM Security, for example. YouTube is also fantastic as well. Setting up labs can depend on what setup you have at home and so on. But I know there's certainly people who do that a lot better than I do on the social platforms. But I would say the experience for me, the difficult bit was moving from marketing to IT in general. I think cyber as a move will be as difficult because it's finding your first job in a new but related industry. But I would absolutely go for IT first, more generally. The amount of stuff I've learned in 8 months, it pales in comparison to what I learned over 3 years in uni.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm with you on that one. We actually have in the chat right now. So Simon, I got to apologize. I got Simon Lindstedt in the chat on LinkedIn. Unfortunately, I cannot respond to LinkedIn from StreamYard. So that's why I've thrown some of his stuff up there as well. But Simon from the UK, great guy. I've had him on the show. He's been doing big things to help people over, kind of get over that hump in the training department and what he's been doing in the interviews he's been doing. So Simon, thank you for joining us. As far as labs go, as always, I have KevTech IT support in the chat on YouTube right now. Kev is one of a dear friend of mine who is doing a lot of big things on YouTube to help people develop labs. So from that training aspect and that hands-on practical aspect that you talk about, that is probably one of the best YouTube channels you can go to get that baseline foundational knowledge, how to set up an Active Directory server, how to create this VM lab environment, and all these other things. And now he's moving into Linux and some cybersecurity stuff that I've been trying to get him to do for a while. So he's finally pulling the trigger on it. Excuse me. But yeah, so it's amazing having him in the chat as always. Jonathan, what have you found difficult so far? So as a system administrator trying to go into security, what has been some of your kind of like sticking points in what you in the transition for you?
When you say sticking points, like, because there's a lot of things I found difficult. I mean, just the whole process. For me, it's been I'll just be honest. For me, it's been talking to people, hiring managers, recruiters, and then um, people have undervalued my skill set, and that has probably been my biggest problem. Is because they, I've always had it to where they either are when I talk to them, I get the feeling they are not really interested in my skill set and what I can do. They're more worried about stuff like my job, the gaps, which are not even important. And as an example, I had a interview with the CEO, and that was the main thing that she was worried about was my job gap. And it's like, I am trying to talk about my skills. I am trying to say what I could do to bring, you know, what do I have to offer for this position? My job gap doesn't mean anything. And I've had so many people do that. And it's amazing when you start talking to people. I have got to the point where I refuse. If you are concerned about the gap and not my skill set, we don't have anything to talk about, because I can already tell you're not going to take me seriously. And it's amazing. It's really hard to get, when the person is like, they want some, I don't even know what they're looking for. It's like, I gave you one answer and that's all I'm going to do. I want to talk about what do I have to bring to the table. My security training, my network training, everything that I can do for the company, for the position is what I want to, talk about.
Mm-hmm.
But I've had my skill set undervalued, and then I've had people very condescendingly, when we talk about the other things like salary and stuff, and it's just one thing or another for me. It's like I'm trying to talk about how I can fit into this role, what I can bring to the table, and the other stuff, but it's just one thing or another, and it's been a real struggle to even get anything, and so it's like, just you got to keep going, because it really can be a punch to the gut.
Yeah, definitely. And it's that anytime someone brings up like a break in work, right? That job gap, it's frustrating because there's always a reason, and it takes nothing away from your skills. It takes nothing away from your capability. Like if I go back and look at it, in my younger days, mind you, I started working when I was like 14 years old, right? So I worked during school and would take off during the summer, which is kind of backwards from how some people do things. But I did it that way because I played sports, wanted to hang out with my friends, wanted my summers free. And so, in essence, if they were looking like at that time, and again, this was before your career even mattered, you were just taking jobs and applying, and it really didn't matter what you did. But if those were like looked at, they would be like, "Oh, you just don't want to work." No, 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 no. See, I have personal shit that I want to do during the summer, and I don't want it. I don't want it to take away from what your company does. And so the way I look at things is, if I know I'm not going to be there as often as you would need me, why work there in the first place? Why even be somewhere if you're not going to be able to give your devotion to it? So to me, that shows more about a person that they're willing to take that time off, whether it's to learn or to travel or to spend time with family, whatever the case may be. It gave you that time to tell an organization like, hey, this isn't going to work out, hire somebody. And that way you have that gap where you did whatever it is you wanted to do, regardless of your reason. You did what you wanted to do, and now you're trying to find work again, and people are just looking at this gap from like 5 years ago. Like, hey, why is there a gap here? Because 5 years ago, I don't know. Maybe I was in college. Maybe I wanted to see the world and actually become a better person. Who the hell knows? But the fact is, you have skills to bring to the table. You have shit that you can actually do for an organization. And the ones that don't see that, fuck them. That's the way I look at it. Fuck them. You don't want to hire someone with talent? Fuck you. I don't care.
No, that's for me. The way I just got to the point to where it's like, and you have a good point, because a lot of the gaps that I took, I was doing stuff. I was learning Microsoft stuff, Azure, 365, Linux, AWS. I poke my head into all kinds of different stuff, and it's like I tell them this, but let's go back to that gap, and it's kind of like, no, let's not. I gave you an answer, and it's kind of like, it's like I have, speaking about labs, I subscribe to a platform that had like 700, they had almost anything you could think of, which was great, because I could, like, when I had time off, I would be poking in AWS, Azure, servers, you name it, I was doing it. And it's like
almost like an A-Cloud guru type of thing.
Yeah, it's a digital cloud ocean something. And
DigitalOcean is a fantastic,
yes, that's it,
VM platform. Yeah.
Yes, everything. I was able to actually get in there, and I had it for a year, so it's like, oh great, so I could go into this, and do all this stuff and have fun with it and actually get to see it. And I talk about that stuff, and it's like, okay, and it's really hard for me to what's the word? You're trying to get your value out there, and it makes it harder when people are when you can't fully comprehend. They can't comprehend. Okay, so I don't have years of experience, but I understand how this and this works. And that's been my thing. Is that's what I do. Is I talk about, I don't have 10 years experience in this, but I understand how this works. And it's the whole process of getting into security and IT is very challenging right now, say the least.
Definitely. And one of the things I would like everybody to realize is that your lab time, your learning experience is experience. So when you're filling out a CV, as they say in the UK, or a resume here in the US, if you have experience, like you've built labs, you've built up Active Directory and understand GPOs and users and OUs and things like that, guess what? When on your resume or CV you're putting down things you have experience in, you now have experience in Active Directory. You've done it. You understand it. You know how it works and how it functions and how to implement different things. Same with Linux. If you build bash scripts and have worked with Linux as a daily driver as an operating system, and you understand the open source side of things, and so you're like, okay, if this driver fails for this reason, I know I have to go look at these logs and done more of the administrative things. You have experience in Linux now because you use it. And people hate to say that, but the fact is, it's true. I can't tell you how many times I've looked at my resume and been like, well, I've never actually worked a job doing this, but I've done it on my own. So when people ask, okay, how'd you learn? How do you know this? What job did you have? Oh, I built my own lab, or I did this at the third, or I use Ubuntu or ParrotSec or Kali Linux on a daily basis, like these things. And then they understand, okay, so now your experience is more than professional. Everybody tries to link it to professional. And Henry and Jonathan, Kev will be the first one to tell you that you can use these labs as experience on a resume.
This is one thing, and that I've tried to do that when I talk about, and it seems like I've done that in interviews when I'm talking to recruiters and hiring managers. I tell them, like, this and this, like VMware. because VMware is something that really was interested in. So it's like, hey, I'm gonna get into VMware. And the DigitalOcean Lab, they had like they have two. It's two. What do you want to? It's not. It's the certifications for like two of the biggest VMware paths. So I could basically pick and choose which ones I want to learn, and I would do that. And then when I'm talking to a hiring manager, oh, do you have 5 years experience in VMware? No, but I've gone into labs to learn the A, B, C, D, 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 and it's kind of like, yeah, whatever. And I'm like, what? I don't have 5 years experience, but I know how it works. And it's like,
Yeah,
oh, it doesn't
definitely.
matter.
But you do have experience, and that's the thing is you have to find a way to sell yourself. And Henry, I know you're sitting there silent. Dude, you're an awesome guest. You're just sitting there letting someone talk. I know others that'll just like cut people off.
They've got
like
things
me.
to say. I want to absorb the experience.
Right.
Yeah.
But I will say this, and we'll get to you, Henry, is that is still experience. So whether you call it informal, like Alana pointed out, or anything like that, it's still experience. So if somebody says you don't have experience, call bullshit. Like, no, I have experience. I'm doing it. I've done it. I know how it operates. Don't say this, but basically it comes down to finding a tactful way to say, fuck you. This is what I know. Like, you have to find a way to sell yourself and basically pull their threads and start treating them like the fucking puppet they want to make you, and being like, look, no, I know what I know. I could sit here all day and talk about certifications out the ass. It doesn't mean I know the shit unless I actually do it, and then I know it. Certifications only get you so far. You have to actually do it. And so there is shit to this day that I'd probably have to pull off my resume, because even though I'm certified in it, I haven't touched a shit in 10 years. So it's like, I mean, if I sat down and did it, I could probably figure it out. But it's been so long, I don't fucking know. So it's things like that. Now, Henry, I know you've got some things that you need to say, and I'd love to hear your viewpoint on this. From what you've heard, what's kind of your response to that, and how would you approach those situations?
No person's studying pathway is linear. There will always be things that you want to do, that you'll experience, whether it's a certification, a lab, whatever the case it may be. And you may get that certification and say, hey, do you know what? This wasn't for me. But there's value in being able to complete something and say that wasn't for me. I think people miss that sometimes. But there's also the flip side of that. You do a lab, you really enjoy it, it could lead to a career you do the rest of your life. You do a certification, you find it fantastic, you really enjoy the subject matter that's covered, it then becomes the guiding principle for everything else that you do. For those that are looking at an entry-level IT role, and you guys were talking about labs and certifications and things like that as well, a lot of what they've mentioned is completely relevant. I do a first-line service desk job, so I am in the trenches, so to speak. We deal with anything and everything that comes through. My main advice for those people who do not have an IT job, or who maybe are looking for one and are not getting success at interviews, those labs are going to work. You just have to find the time to do them. But finding time to do them in a way that is conducive to your schedule, nobody can tell you how to do that. You've got to work out your time, how you organize yourself. That there's a lot that goes on in that background before you can be ready to segment this time out for these tasks. If, like me, you've got personal commitments outside of work that you've got to fulfill, and you've got family commitments and everything else as well, it's tough to find the time to do all this stuff. If I had a completely empty schedule, I'd be looking at doing a YouTube channel and a blog and everything, but I don't have that time. And being comfortable with that as an individual when you are pursuing a certain career goal, that's also quite important, especially from the mental side of things. And you see a lot of people burning out. You see a lot of people thinking like, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to do the other. Doing one of those things will probably get you where you want to go eventually. Full steaming ahead at it is a good idea in theory, but in practice it leads to burnout, inconsistency, and you never actually get where you're wanting to go. I think, as the other guys have said here, those labs that KevTech does are fantastic. I hands down, it can teach you about 90% of what you need to know for a first line service desk job. There are also other things as well. There's that technical knowledge component as well. You need to have familiarity with phrases, words, what things mean, so you can. The guideline I like to use is being able to hold a genuine conversation with an IT professional. If I can do that for a certain topic, I know enough. Now, when I move up to second line, third line service desk, before I move to cyber, if I get to cyber earlier, I have no idea. I wish I had a mystical ball that would tell me exactly what the future holds, but I digress. When I'm moving up that way, the level of competence with these subjects increases in line with that. So at second line, I'm not just holding a conversation. I'm now able to teach somebody else that concept. When I can teach somebody else that concept, and I move up to third line, it's like, okay, can I teach multiple people this concept simultaneously and add different dimensions to it? Don't expect to know everything from day one. You won't. But the certifications will help that technical knowledge component. But the practical side is completely personally led. And if you can show that in an interview, using the labs as an interview example is the best way to do this. As long as you can do that in an interview environment and sell it on your CV, keeping it to a page or two at most with everything that you've got, that's going to be it. There are loads of soft skills that are important as well. I feel like that gets missed. So things like communication, teamwork, collaboration. There's not one day in my work week where I'm not asking somebody above me on the service desk who knows more than I do, how would you tackle this problem? How would you tackle this unique thing I've not seen before? And then you can see how the soft skill component comes in there. So all of your experience that you've had up until the point when you apply for an IT job is absolutely relevant. All the sales consultant jobs that you may have had, all of the jobs working over the summer, or even if you don't work over the summer and you have those personal experiences doing different things, there is always time to fit in a little bit of IT study here and there. How you do it is up to you. You just have to work that component out, and that takes time. It takes tools, it takes organization, and really trusting yourself as an individual to say, actually, do you know what? If I do this, I will get what I want. But I have to bring it back and say, this is on me. This is my responsibility to do this. If I want to get where I want to go, I've got to do these things.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of that comes down to, and you mentioned it, soft skills, or as my good friend would say, Eric Bellardo, people skills, right? The human element. And that's something that even if you take time off to travel, to see the world, to experience life, to do these different things, you're developing those skills because you have to interact with people that know nothing about you. Your culture here in one state in the U.S. is different in another state, and different in a different area or a different state or city or street or whatever. It changes. So you learn how these cultures interact and how these people speak and understand information. And so when you start looking globally and you start seeing the world, now you're looking at other cultures and languages and a way they do things. So your time off, no matter what it is, no matter what the hell you're doing in your time off, is still giving you some experience that you just need to learn how to translate. So if you have a job gap, okay, in that time I was doing this, and this. Honestly, it's to the point I think we need to redo resumes and the way we look at them. And instead of it being a job gap, it's okay, in between this job and this job, I was doing this. Put it in as another fucking job. I don't fucking care. But you were doing something to develop your people skills or to develop something about yourself in this break between working. What that shows is two things. One, your ability to learn and grow as a person. And two, you weren't just doing nothing. You found a way to translate that information, the things that you got, the things that you learned, into something that would work for another organization. One of the hardest parts for veterans right now, especially if they come from like an infantry career field or something like that, is translating the things that they've done in the military to a civilian workforce. So that goes for changing career fields. If you look at someone like an Alyssa Miller, who came into cybersecurity from a barista, the way she did it was learning how to translate what she did as a barista into how that would affect the company she wants to work for, how that would help. And that's really what it comes down to. You never have a break from learning. If you look at your life, You're always learning if you're paying attention. And that's the big thing, is translating it.
There's so I was looking at the comments, and the one thing that stood out to me is what Griffin said about people hiring rock stars, and it's so true because I go through that. Is such a true statement because there are so many jobs, and from the get-go, it's like they're looking for 10 years experience, and you need to have this much, and it's like this awesome, I mean, this awful, like, just jibber jabber of from um desktop to servers to being a security expert and blah 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 blah. And I'm like, can you give me the real job? Because I don't want that. You're giving me a load of bullshit, okay? And I'm tired of it. I see it all the time, and I just look at it and I'm like, yeah, that's bullshit. No, I'm not gonna. And then I say, can you tell me what are my real day-to-day duties? Yes, this other stuff is nice, but I can learn that. But what is the real job? And then you talk to them, and they don't even know. But,
yeah, and that's the biggest problem, is a lot of your hiring, your HR and your recruiters don't actually know what the job is going to be.
no, they
All
don't.
the job description in front of them. So it makes it very difficult. And I'm sorry, recruiters, as much as we love to shit on recruiters, and a lot of people do, recruiters have a very hard job, especially if they're a third-party recruiting agency, because all they get handed is this job description from a company saying, hey, I need you to find this person for me. So I feel bad because, yes, some recruiters are shit. Let's be honest. They ghost you and leave you hanging and don't follow up. But honestly, it really comes down to their job is fucking hard.
Yeah.
Their job is difficult when all you're told is, this is what I need. And you're looking at it. And I have gone and had long talks with recruiters when I was looking for work. And I had someone call me, and I laughed when he told me what was required, what they were paying. And this was years ago, so I don't remember all the details of the job description, but I laughed at him. I said, you're smoking something, dude. I don't know what the fuck you want. And he was like, what do you mean? And I explained to him all the issues with the job description. I was like, anybody with this certification isn't going to accept this job, or they're going to want $180,000, $190,000 a year. They're not going to take this for the, I don't know, 100,000 it was, or 90, or whatever the salary was. I said, you're smoking something. You're not going to find someone. And he was like, are you serious? I was like, yeah, dude. Like, this, I know the field. I've been in long enough. I know what jobs pay, even for my local market in Pittsburgh. So yeah, you're definitely, you're on something trying to hire that position at that rate with that experience. No, it's not going to happen. And he goes, that explains why I'm having all these issues. Yeah. Now I'm explaining it to you. And look, I like you because you're willing to hear me out. But these are the issues you're having with your search for this company. He's like, all right, sounds good. I'll take it back to them and we'll see what can work out. Now, he never got back to me, which I didn't expect him to, because it was a role I wasn't going to take anyways. And I told him that. But it was one of those things where sometimes you have to, if you're talking to a recruiter, especially a third-party recruiter, explain to them the issues. And they'll start, and I think that's what we need to do as people looking for work. So if you're looking for a job and dealing with these third-party recruiters, start explaining the issues with these job descriptions. That way they then go back to the companies and say, hey, look, I'm not finding anyone, and I've talked to 10 people, and they've all told me this. You need to fix your shit so I can go find somebody. Like
that. And Kev Tech actually hit the nail on the unicorn, because I've had that discussion with so many recruiters, and it's just like, that unicorn doesn't exist. Stop it. And they want everything, and I'm just like looking at them like, okay, so are you paying unicorn money? Oh no, we're only paying 80, 75, 80. Excuse me while I laugh at you. Because that's not unicorn money. You want to pay 75, 80 for, and that's a senior? Oh, no, I'm sorry, that's not gonna fly. And yeah, so yeah, I hear that and I see that, and sometimes I have to just be like, yeah, thank you, but no, and stifle my laugh because I'm like, no, I'm not even gonna bother with you.
And so what I love about this is Jonathan and Henry, both of you seem to have a real love for IT and cybersecurity and trying to learn and grow. So in that aspect, with the recruiters and everybody you've been dealing with, trying to move up, trying to do better things, trying to learn more, what has really been your passion point to drive you to keep growing in the way you are? And I'll let you go first on this one.
A very tough experience. During COVID, I was effectively put on hold almost. In the UK, for those who don't know, there was a scheme called furlough that was put in place. It was paying effectively 80% of whatever your salary was at the point where they put the nail down and said, right, this is when furlough starts. And companies had the choice to either keep you going or they would put you on furlough. And I think it was done for about 10, 11 months in my own experience. Having nothing to do for 10 months and not being in a, how do I put this, financially stable position, I think is the correct way to put it. You have a lot of time on your hands to think about your life in general. What am I doing now? Where do I want to go? I was writing my dissertation at this point as well. So alongside that, I had a lot of time to think about how my life was and where it was going and what I really wanted out of life. And it drew me back to a lot of experiences I had growing up when I did mess around with IT and computers and really got passionate about it, as well as the time I had in college as well, where I would frequently liaise with the service desk team that was there in the network admins because I had issues in my college dorm with my internet access. So greatest challenge that I mentioned before is taking that initial step and maintaining that consistency. If you're somebody who doesn't know anybody who works in IT, it's critical you find somebody who is in IT or at least has some experience working in IT. In the UK, we have a sort of institution almost called the British Computing Society, or the BCS. Membership for them as a student member, I think, is like £20 or whatever it is, or whatever the dollar equivalent is to that. And I was able to find 4 industry relevant mentors through that scheme. I frequently liaise with all of them at the moment as well. And mentors can give you a fresh, unbiased perspective on where you are at the moment and inject a bit of realism into what you're doing. Is it actually practical for me to be pursuing this certification when I have no experience in IT? Or is my CV up to scratch? Are my cover letters doing well? Is what I'm trying to hit, am I actually hitting that target? Am I getting where I need to go? And if the answer to that question is no, or if you don't have a suitably qualified individual who's not biased that can tell you no or yes, you need to find that person. And it just required me getting that membership, going onto the mentoring platform, building a profile, took about half an hour. And I sent out a bunch of messages to about 15 people that one particular evening saying, honestly, this is where I am. This is where I want to go. Can you help me? And one person initially reached out, which I still speak to at this point. And it just flowed from there. I got my first job in IT from all the discussions I had from that. And then all the other mentoring relationships came from there because I was able to say, actually, I could bring a little bit of experience to the table here, provided a viewpoint on maybe the issues you as a mentor are experiencing. And it's important to bring that back as well when you are in a mentoring situation. What value can you offer a mentor? Because they're looking for that value relationship there as well. Do you provide a unique perspective on an issue? Do you think that your past experience will help them overcome issues that they may have? That mentoring component is often underestimated, but really important. And I think that BCS route is probably one of the most practical ways to do it if you're in the UK. In the US, not sure if you guys have an equivalent version of the BCS, but I don't think the BCS is geographic specific or limits people in any way based on their geography. So I would say get a mentor. Absolutely. It's what made the difference for me. And if you are at a point where you are finding this transition difficult, being realistic with yourself and that it will take a lot of time, and having a job in the background where you can support yourself, it might not be the best thing in the world. I did several sales jobs before I got into IT, but at least it keeps it keeps the lights on, so to speak. You may hate it now, but if it's a technical sales job, there's still transferable experience there. If you're a barista, for example, you're communicating with people, you're sorting complicated orders, that's all relevant stuff when you're handling incidents on the service desk. Recruiters, if they're any decent, will see that. They will absolutely see that. And as long as you are reading that job description intensively to understand, okay, what keywords am I seeing here? How can I build my CV out? Am I am I sure I'm hitting all these things? And choosing the companies very wisely, not just sort of casting a wide net, picking ones with purpose, you'd find that you are in a position where you are hitting more of them more often or hitting interviews more consistently. I had one interview that I didn't get when I was studying for IT. It was about halfway through the course I was doing, my transition course. And I did absolutely everything I could have done. I only got beaten out by somebody else because they had a job experience in cyber service desk job before. They said if that candidate wasn't there, I would have had it. So you can get screwed by luck as well. It won't work in your favor every time. And being comfortable with that fact when it comes out, it will hurt for a little bit, but being comfortable with that fact and marketing yourself properly. If there's one thing my degree taught me is you have to market yourself properly and put confidence in the fact that you know what you're doing. Like these guys said before as well, when you've done a lab, you have experience with X or Y thing. Might not be a lot of experience, but like I was saying before, if you can explain it to somebody, that's all you have to do at a first line job interview. They're not going to ask you, okay, how does this work and that work? How would you train people on this? No, just tell me how it works or how you would fix this problem. The one interview question that I got was, okay, somebody's got a network problem, how would you fix it? And that's all they gave me. And so breaking that problem out, okay, well, you tried cable. Have you asked anybody else whether they've got any problems at all? Have you pinged the device? Have you done this? Have you done that? And eventually you get this big ball of response that you can say, okay, I actually know what I'm talking about here. You guys can train me. You've got people who are above that job you're hiring for. I've proven I can be trained. And that proving to be trained thing, or that you are trainable in a practical environment, is also important. And I think if you have a degree that's even unrelated, you've proven that you can be trained to do any job. You've just got to understand the relationship between that, and that there are relevant things from your degrees, previous jobs that aren't IT related, that you can absolutely inject into a CV. And that's exactly what I did.
Yeah, definitely. And I want to touch on a few things there, and then we'll get to Jonathan. You know, you talked about mentors and whether the BCS is level. One of the things I will say, Kev brought it up in chat, and I had it in my head. I was just waiting for you to finish your whole point. Cyber Mentor Dojo I know JJ Davey kind of helped start it, and he has other people running it and doing things with them on the side. But it's global. You sign up, you can be a mentor, a mentee. It's all free. You can just go to cybermentordojo.com, I think it is. And it's an amazing, I'm on their Discord. Like, it's an amazing organization. They're doing a lot of big things. And to your point, as a mentee, mentors still want to learn from you. So it's a whole relationship. Like, it's like talking to your best friend. Just as you might want to give them advice, you're looking for them to advise you on certain things as well. Or maybe it's a parent or a brother or a sister, whatever the case may be. You're looking for this back and forth. Tell me when I fuck up. Tell me when I'm wrong. But at the same time, I'm going to do the same to you. And then we're going to fix it together. We're going to figure out how we can get things right and get on the right path. And that's what a mentor should give to you. A mentor should never be a yes man or a yes woman or a yes person at all. It should be somebody who is going to tell you when you're being an asshole and when you're wrong. Because if you don't have those people in your life to tell you when you're wrong, you're not going to get anywhere. Because then you're going to keep doing things and you're not going to get that job or the next job or the next job. And you're like, I'm doing everything right. My mentor and my friend and my buddy and, you know, this, that, and the third is saying I'm doing everything right. No, the fuck you're not, homie. You're doing something wrong. If you've missed out on 500 jobs, there's something you can do better to get that interview and sell yourself. There's something you can improve on. And if someone's telling you you have nothing to improve on, you're wrong. Because none of us are perfect. We all have things that we can do better. Our goal should always be to improve. And if someone's telling you you have nothing to improve on, get yourself somebody else to talk to, because that person is lying to you. Like, me and my bosses have the conversation all the time. Where am I fucking up? Because I know I'm fucking something up. I have to be. Like, I know I'm not perfect, so tell me what I can improve on. And they help me out. And they're like, oh, yeah, you can do better here, here, and here. Cool, got it. I'll work on it. As long as you don't let the stuff that you're actually doing good with fall behind, okay. But sometimes you let some shit slide. Like, oh, I know I'm great on this. I'm going to let it slide a little bit. Don't do that. Don't ever do that. It's all bad things. But yeah, so Cyber Mentor Dojo, definitely a big one. So Jonathan, Henry, if you're not on there, find them. Talk to JJ Davey, great guy. He's another one that's over on near your neck of the woods, Henry. Him and Paul Charles are amazing people. They were actually some of the first people from the UK that I talked to. Actually, JJ's not in the UK. I don't know exactly where he's at, but he's my red bearded warrior that I love to talk to so much. I call him a Viking. He's not allowed to take Cyber Viking because my other buddy had that one first. But yeah, he's a good buddy of mine. I love talking to him, and he always tells me when I'm fucking up, so I ain't mad at it. But yeah, so Jonathan,
on
ahead, Henry.
a final point on those mentors as well, they have a lot of experience in the industry. They will know what they are talking about most of the time. There are some times when you as a newbie can call them out on stuff. It's not very often, I might add. But it's also name dropping. These guys are very experienced and they will name drop certain things, resources, websites, tools. Like, for example, we've talked about the mentoring system that they've got at the moment, which is the Cyber Mentor Dojo, and then DigitalOcean as well. Two things that I had no idea about before I came into this webinar. Are these two things I'm going to look at once this finishes? Yes. Because even if I don't decide to go ahead with that certain thing, I still know of its existence. So if another professional mentions it to me, I was like, yes, I know what that is. I may have only looked at it once. I was like, okay, that's the thing you were talking about, right? It's building that overall general knowledge, which you need for cybersecurity. I know a lot of people will tell you, you can go into cybersecurity from the get-go and everything else, but you're trying to protect infrastructure. If you don't understand that infrastructure, you don't know what you're protecting. You don't know what your assets are. And if you don't know what your assets are, you're not really doing cybersecurity in all fairness. Having that base knowledge is so important. Even if you don't end up getting a service desk job or a desktop analyst job or something, proving you know those core things is super important. And mentors, certifications, and those practical experiences we talked about can get you there. It just takes time.
Henry, I can get you into a GRC job based off of what you just said. That asset inventory is the most important part of security. Knowing your software and your assets are the two most important things to developing any cybersecurity plan. The fact that you know that already shows me that you can go into a security role, even a base level security role, especially in GRC, that's all policy, procedure, and risk management, and understand the basics of it to say, look, if you don't have this, I can't fucking help you. We need this first, and then we can proceed to look at how to defend these things and secure it and actually do this. There's so many organizations out there that don't even know what the hell what's on their network. They have no clue because they have no asset inventory or true asset inventory, and they have no software inventory. So the fact that you just said that shows me you already know more and have a better understanding of security than a lot of organizations out there. So keep at it, and I promise you, before you even hit service line 2 or maybe shortly thereafter, you will find a security job, even if it's a GRC. GRC is a great position, by the way, so don't knock it until you try it.
I'm actually quite interested in GRC, to be brutally honest.
Yeah,
it intersects quite well with it intersects well with the degree I did. I did a management marketing degree. There was a lot of management theory and leadership theory and a lot of on collaboration and innovation. There's a lot of links with GRC and what I did at uni and now what I do with IT as well. So yes, I have been interested in that, but I'm not going to rush it because I need that core understanding of instruction. If that takes 4 years, I ain't got a problem with that. I'll be 28, 29. I've got the rest of my life in front of me.
Yeah.
So I'm not worried. And regardless of what age you enter IT, you should be making haste, but not putting yourself under pressure. Your circumstances are your own. You can't change that. You can't alter that. But you can impact where you go by what you do. And I think that's very, very, very important. But for context, I've never worked a security job in my life. A lot of what I know about cybersecurity was gained through certifications. ISC Squared is fantastic. ISC Squared also have Bright Talk webinars. They do loads of security briefings. And they're hour-long webinars that go deep into specific issues like asset management, like SecDevOps, for example. And if you're just trying to understand things and be able to know what these words mean and what these concepts mean, that's what you're trying to do at a base level. They're perfect resources. YouTube will also very, very good. But get into that habit of CPE. When you get higher up the IT chain, they will expect you to do continuing professional education and they will ask you to prove that you're doing these things. getting into that very, very early, keeping certificates, keeping notes, proving you were doing
Wait,
something at a
that's how
certain
I
time, a
lost
certain
my
day.
certifications.
Proving that you were at a certain place at a certain time, doing an activity that was IT related, that's the best behavior that you can develop, in addition to stuff that you do at first line service desk or first line security analyst. It's a very good behavior to get into because they will ask for it later down the road. They'll absolutely ask for
I
it.
love it. I love it. You got a good head on your shoulders, man. Like, so you talking to Mike Miller, like, if you don't follow Mike Miller, please follow the guy. Amazing person doing amazing things. Simon Lindstead is another one. Kev Tech. Alana. Look, if you're not following me on LinkedIn, Alana, please tag me or something. I want to get you on the show because you're in GRC. So I love having GRC people on here because we're able to talk more policy. So please, Alana, if you're there, please get a hold of me. But moving forward, Jonathan, man, let's get your viewpoints on all this and everything that's been said, brother.
I mean, I've been in IT for a minute, and just it's I'm not gonna lie, the struggle is real. Just when you're trying to move up. For me, it's always been trying to improve my skills, and that's one thing for me that I'll never stop doing. That's one thing that I've learned. I'm just gonna keep, I don't care how many managers want to try and downplay my skills, which unfortunately for me, it seems like that seems to be the big thing a lot of them want to do, is because, I don't have X amount of years doing blah, blah, blah. I understand it perfectly because I've played in the labs and I researched it, and I know how it works. And I know that I could do it, but, it's like just getting in there. And for people who are trying, it's hard, and it will, the rejections and everything, it doesn't feel good, but just keep it, and just keep at it. That's all because I'm never going to stop, and never going to stop pushing myself. Find people, like I have friends who work in high level IT jobs, and getting to talk to them and hear what they do, it's like, oh, okay, because it's and following people like like Mike Miller, Kev Tech, and I don't even know, so many people I follow, and it's interesting to see the journey and what they do, and I love doing that because it's like I don't do it, but it sounds interesting. I like that. Discord, I don't even know how many groups I follow in Discord, but for me, I'm always pushing myself. And like for what I do right now, I love it because I do networking, I do Microsoft servers, I do security. So I get to touch everything, and I'm not siloed like my other jobs. Oh, you can only do desktop. Oh, you can only do this job. Like, no, you're it. Just do it. And this last week that my so now it's 5 of us. The boss above me was gone he's on a 2-week vacation, so it was me and the CIO. So, he was like, oh yeah, here. I was like, I don't have access. Oh, you do now. Oh, okay, you don't have access. Here you go. I was like, okay. So he's just like, here, go do it. I was like, great. If you can get a job where you can touch stuff, do it, because that, then you can't have, nobody would be able to take that away from you, because they'll be like, oh, you don't have, screw it. You don't need 10 years. You don't need 5 years. Do you understand the principles? Yes. Do you know how it works? Yes. You can find a job doing it, entry level, whatever. But I've had so many people who were just like intent on, and you're going to meet a lot, condescending, rude, plain out assholes, and they don't even bother, because those people, you don't want to work for them anyway. And I've learned, I've got to the point where if you're going to downgrade me and just be rude and just be like that, I'm done. I need to find a job that I can move my skill set, and I can prove I can be of value to you. And that's what I want. I want some place like they will say, okay, we can teach you and you can move up the chain, and you can move and you can see yourself going and progressing. That's my thing. I want to progress. I want to learn. I want to get to that level. I don't need. I need a supportive atmosphere. That's what you need. You need people who will push you, who will drive you, who will say, okay, you want to learn this? Here, go learn that. Here, go learn that. And then they can say, okay, you've learned this, this, and this. Now we can push you to the next level. Now you can go do this, this, and this. And you see it. Yes, it takes time. And I'm just, all about people who are positive. I don't want to. Being stagnant is not something I want because the tech moves too quick.
Tech's not stagnant at all.
Yeah, if you had this 5 years ago, you're probably not gonna be relevant for the new stuff because Microsoft, they change their shit like every 6 months, every year.
And they changed the names of everything too. Even
Thank
Azure has
you.
changed.
Every
They went from
damn
like
year.
everything to like now it's like the Defender console for everything,
Yes.
and it was Security Center or some other
Yes.
bullshit. Like
Yes.
they keep changing the names of shit. So
Yes.
I'm with you on that.
Yes. SCCM, MECM. It's like I can't even keep up because every time I look at it, oh, we're changing names. God damn it! What was that? What is that? And it's like, oh, that was SCCM. And I'm like, okay, so what is it called now? What is Defender called now? And it's like I can't even keep up on the name because they change it like once a year. Somebody and I'm like, can we stop? Just leave it one name, please, because I don't even know what I know what it is, but then you're changing the name, and I'm like, okay, just forget it. And so I don't even bother. It's like, oh, okay, can you give me the old name? Oh yes, I know what that is now. Yeah, forget Microsoft with that crap. But no, just I just tell anybody. I will tell anybody. Follow people. If you have friends in IT, like the guys that I talk to, they have high level jobs, and I like hearing about it because it lets me know, okay. And I've known these guys for a long time, and just getting to listen to what they do and the kind of stuff. It's like, okay, and then you can actually figure out, do I want to do that? Maybe not, but then maybe I want to do something else, and just so many different things you could do. You don't have to stay on one. You could dip, dodge, and dabble in everything, and just kind of until you figure out if you want to specialize. I mean, like me, I probably can't say I'll ever specialize, but I'm gonna have a good knowledge of like a lot of different stuff. Like is what I do. I can't specialize because I gotta touch everything, which I actually love because he says, "Hell, have you done this?" Yes, I'm doing it now. Do you have 5 years experience? Get out of here. I don't need it.
I'm right there with you, man. I'm more of a generalist, right? I do everything a mile wide and an inch deep. So it's one of those things. I can learn anything, but
Yeah.
I will never consider myself an expert in anything. The
That
cybersecurity career field is so broad. I hate anytime someone claims they're a cybersecurity expert.
Yeah.
I despise that term.
Yeah.
Now, you want to say you're an expert in a specific sect, like, hey, I'm an expert exploit developer, I'll give you that. Or reverse engineer or GRC, but please pick a framework because there's no way in hell you're an expert on every single fucking framework. There's way too many out there. You name it, it's okay to be an expert in a sect, but to say you're a cybersecurity expert, please go kick rocks. No, you're not.
I just hate the word expert because I'm like, well, okay, you're an expert, but as much as people change stuff, it's like it changes too much.
That's the biggest thing for me is it's always changing. There's always a new vulnerability, a new exploit, a new something, a new tool, a new something to learn. Even if you want to say you're a SIM expert or a blue team expert, SIMs change all the time. Logarithm and McAfee ESM and QRadar and all these other ones have changed consistently. And so to say you're an expert on anything, like, are you keeping up with the newest shit? Because I hope you're learning 24/7 because that's really what it's going to take to keep up and truly be an expert. That's what it's going to take.
I'll say for me, the only people I consider experts are the people who actually create the shit and push it out and are changing it monthly, daily, whatever. Those are the experts because they created the shit. So yeah, they're experts because it is theirs. They have that as that is their baby. They are constantly refining it and So, but yeah, I hate the word expert because, companies, oh, we're looking for an expert. Shut up. I don't even, I just look at that and I laugh because I'm like, no, I'm good at what I do, and that's as much as I'm going to say. I might be a
So-
high level senior, whatever, at it, but expert is like, no, I hate that word with a passion.
So before we go, I want to say two things. We got KevTech IT support here, and I like this quote. What do you know about IT? I know nothing because I'm always learning. So there are two approaches that can get people to always be learning, and that's really what you should be doing is always learning. So the way I approached it growing up in the military and things like that is, I always said I was the best at at everything, at what I do. I'm the best at what I do, but there was a reason and there was a methodology behind it, and it was because if I walked into a room, then I would always try to learn something from somebody else. Because if they say they're the best at something, I'm going to learn from them, which makes me then better than them if they refuse to learn from me because they don't see me as someone worth learning from. So it sets me up above and apart. The other way to approach it is you should always be the dumbest guy in the room. Always. If you're the smartest guy in the room, you're in the wrong room because then who are you learning from? And you should always be learning from somebody. Now, saying that, I full-heartedly believe you can learn from people from the oldest person alive to your toddlers that can't even talk yet. You can figure out what they're thinking and how they process information and always learn from somebody. I don't care who they are. I don't care what they look like. I don't care what they believe. The fact of the matter is, there is somebody that can teach you something every day of your life. You just have to be open-minded enough and willing to listen and learn. So, for anybody new out there, learn from everybody, from the most experienced person to the most junior person. Don't ever be afraid to learn from somebody. For the more experienced people out there, get your ego in fucking check and start learning from those under you, because I guarantee you, they're doing shit now that you wish you could do. I've learned from 17-year-olds and 16-year-olds that are doing reverse engineering. I'm like, fuck, I just took a certification. I didn't even fucking know this shit. Like, it's true. I got my Grem, came back, said, oh, I could reverse engineer shit on Hack the Box. And this dude fucking, he put me for a loop. And I was like, oh, shit. How old are you? He goes, 17. I said, fuck me. I said, all right, let's figure this shit out together. Can you tell me what you did, please, so that we can figure this out together? And it's one of those things. Dude, my ego has had to have been put in check on numerous occasions, especially with my own kids. My own kids teach me shit every day. They come home and start talking to me about shit. Ain't even technical, it's just other stuff. And I'm like, can you please explain this to me again? Explain how this makes sense. And the way their minds work and the way they think about things blows my mind. And it makes me all the more proud of them. But at the same time, it lets me know that I should be learning from everybody. I should always be trying to learn from someone. So even you two here on the stream right now, I've learned things I didn't know about BCS, Henry. That's something I had never fucking heard of. Now, granted, I'm not from the UK, but it's still something I have a lot of friends in the UK. Lisa Forte, JJ Davey, Paul Charles. They're not necessarily in the UK per se, but they're over across the pond and know those areas. So for me, it gives me more ammunition to say to anybody I know over there, hey, look into this, that, and the third. This can help you out. Cyber Mentor Dojo. I know that because I'm friends with JJ Davey. So for people that don't know that, guess what? Go look up Cyber Mentor Dojo. Go talk to JJ Davey, Paul Charles, Lisa Forte, Simon Lindstedt, Ian. I can't remember his last name right now, but he comes out with all those hilarious videos on LinkedIn. Mike Miller. Talk to these people and get to know what they're doing. So I'm just saying, there's a lot out there. Now, you both have said some amazing stuff this evening, and I really want to see your growth. I want to see what happens with both of you. So I truly hope that you keep in touch. Let me know what's going on. You ever want back on the show, please let me know. If you get a new job, get promoted, whatever the case may be, finally find your path and want to tell people how you did it, please get on here. We're going to make it happen. I do want to put this out from KevTech, and this is very important. Yes, I used to say to apply to any job that you saw that you wanted and just go for it. Hearing what I heard today, hearing what I've heard on previous episodes and from other people, I will say this. Find the company in the exact job that you want. Quit going out there and applying to 5 million jobs without actually looking at A, the company, and are you even going to like working there? And B, the actual job itself. If that description is so vague you don't fucking understand it, reach out to the people that are hiring. Talk to them. Get to know them. And say, hey, I'm looking at this role. Can you please explain more to me? Can you please help me out? Because I'm not going to waste your time by applying and it not going anywhere. You can better your resume. You can better your CV by knowing what these jobs are and really how to apply to them. Cover letters ain't really necessary for junior level jobs. It can set you apart, but I'm going to be honest. When I see a cover letter, I barely read it. So it's more the resume of, okay, what are you learning? What have you learned? And what's your experience? Like, what are you doing? That allows me to see your growth and your potential for growth. Not all companies are like that. So you got to be able to word resumes in such a way it gets through ATS systems. So keep that in mind. Please start applying for the companies and the jobs that appreciate what you bring to the table. We got to quit blindly applying to everything. And I was one of the ones that used to do it. So I know how bad it can be. And so I love you both. Thank you for being here. As always, I love my guests. My guests are always amazing. The people in chat are amazing. Thank you, Liana, Simon, KevTech, Griffin, and so many others. Look, if you want this amazing merchandise right here, my fun little security happy hour t-shirt, guess what? You can get it on my website, CyberWarriorStudios.com. You can find all the ways to support us down below, as well as connect with my two amazing guests right here. So feel free to connect with them on LinkedIn. If you got a job, if you got something for them, please be sure to do that and help them out. I'm sure they're always looking for it. Simon, if you don't connect with Henry, we're fighting. But otherwise, look, please have a fantastic evening. Thank you all for joining me on this Friday after Thanksgiving. And it was a great Thanksgiving for me. And I will see you all next week with another amazing episode. So please be sure to join us. Otherwise, take care. Have fun. I love you all. And I'll see you all.